So for our Project 3, we were asked to create a slider puzzle. And, you know, for the user, all we're really requiring, is just for the basic inputs of the game. So to make the pieces move, you need to have the user input the tiles, click the tiles. So it needs to handle which tile was clicked, and then swap the corresponding tiles, or move the tile over to the empty space. So you can also choose the time limit as well. We have unlimited, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The board size, so meaning, so we have like a 3x3 slider, but it goes all the way up to 10x10 as well. But the default is 4. And we also have a shuffle button as well, just in case you want to start over and just scramble it all again. You can just hit the shuffle button. And for the background selection, we have 4 different backgrounds that we have. Just kind of like random pictures that we found on the internet that were the perfect size. And then also we have music playing in the background as well, and you can control the audio and the little player that we have on the bottom. Just to control the volume or skip ahead, so on and so forth. And for the outputs, it's basically just kind of like everything from the inputs. Basically just the reaction from the inputs. If you click a tile, you want to have it move to the correct spot, or basically just a blank space. The timer, you want it to have, correctly count the time, because if you choose a time limit and it chooses it's displaying the wrong time, you don't really know how much time you have. And so that's a big issue as well. The board size, obviously if you choose like a 3x3 and you read it with the 10x10 grid that we have, that's definitely not what you're expecting. And so on and so forth. And so this is our general flow of the game, for the unlimited time at least. So the game is just kind of start off with, displaying the images and all that. So start game just kind of includes all the initialization of the game. The timer, the moves counter, displaying all the images, and stuff like that. And so every time, so at first it's going to start off with you generating the possible moves. So as soon as the game starts, you can only move around where the white space is. And once you click any one of the possible moves, it's going to check after the swap if you solve the puzzle. And if you haven't, it's just going to go back, regenerate those possible moves again, and then just kind of like constantly keep checking after every move if you've solved the game. And if it's not, then you're just going to keep going back and forth. If you have, it's going to end the game. It's going to display, the win banner, the time it took, and, the moves it took as well. And of course, if this was the timed ones, you'll just have it counting the time every second. As far as the testing goes, we're kind of just using the same approach that we have for like every single one. You can upload this to GitHub, and it's kind of like a community-driven like testing forum for you. And so you just kind of like put your code into an online repository, and if people come and test your code, or people come borrow your code, use your code, whatever the case may be, and there's an issue with it, they can report it themselves, and anybody who contributes to the repository can see this issue and decide what to do with the priorities. Like, if any one's more important than the other one, you can handle it. You can decide how you want to handle that, and it also makes it easier for you to kind of track which ones are still open, which ones are closed. I don't know if you can see it on the bottom of the image, but you can see open and closed. So if if you ever solve an issue, you can always just move it to closed, and it's just kind of an easier way to manage issues and bugs. And in the Scrum framework, we used that when we were developing this project because it made it much easier to essentially develop the project throughout its entirety. And more specifically, it was easier to delegate tasks and divvy it up between me and Stanley, and also design the software as well. And we also had weekly sprints to kind of like gauge where we were in the project, and if we ever had any issues, we would kind of like tell each other where we were, and see if we could help either one of us out with any of the problems that we were having. Okay, so here's the UI for our game. We basically just have a clock at the top. It shows your time, your moves, the instructions how to play the game. Then we have the shuffle button. You can choose your background right here. We have 4 options, like I said earlier. You can also choose which time limit you want to play with. We have unlimited, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The board size is from 3 up to 10, and just a change button to submit this information. And then we also have an audio player if you want to like motivate yourself as you're playing. And yeah, but for now we'll just leave that off. So yeah, here's the shuffle button, works as intended. Just kind of moves everything around like randomly 1,000 times. But it is solvable. We did it. It was basically just moving this blank space around 1,000 times. So you just gotta kind of find the algorithm for that, or the pattern for that. Anyway, so this is how you change the background. Just if you want to just change the picture, you just kind of hit this. Just a quick demo of like all the different images that we have. And then, so if you want to play 3x3, 4x4, 6x6, and then 10x10 is the massive one. 100 complete tiles. And if you shuffle that around, here we go. Anyway, so if you want to go ahead and start a game, you just choose your time here. You start a game, and then it starts incrementing that by 1 second every time, and it shuffles the board again. And you can kind of click around here. Let's choose a smaller board just to kind of make it easier to demonstrate it. So if you just move it around, yeah, I mean everything's working as intended. You just kind of like move pieces around, and as you can see, if you hover over a piece, if it's outlined in red, that means it's a possible move. So any of these are possible moves, but any of these outer ones are not possible moves, just because, I mean, you can't really go diagonally in this. It doesn't really make any sense. So yeah, let's just to demonstrate our win condition here, or just to demonstrate our win splash. You just kind of added this, and then if you have a you-won screen and the amount of time it took you. So, I mean, we kind of clicked that pretty fast, but we won in 0 seconds. That's kind of a record there. And we won in 2 moves. And so I mean, I guess since it was 0, they kind of never changed this. But yeah, that's about it for our game. Yeah. Also, as far as our test cases go, we kind of planned around quite a few test cases just to make sure that the game is fully functional and working as intended. And we both kind of played the QA tester part. And so we had quite a few of these actually. So for one, we had to make sure that the tiles, were able to switch properly with the empty tile. So if you click a tile and it doesn't move anywhere, or it moves the wrong tile or goes to the wrong spot, that's obviously not how the game is supposed to be played. So we had to ensure that that was definitely the number one priority there. And So, and then also tile swapping is reserved for specific tiles due to puzzle constraints. So, as I mentioned earlier, um, about the swapping, but also you cannot switch with diagonal or adjacent tiles. It's only going to be like the top, left, bottom, or right if there is a tile in that respective column. And then another one would have to be if the puzzle is solvable. That's like probably the most important one, if not the second most. So if the puzzle can be solved, would be an issue, but that's not really something that we had to worry about since the way we implemented the algorithm for the shuffling, it kind of ensured that there was a guaranteed way to solve the puzzle. For example, what we did was basically we had the white blank piece just kind of move around randomly throughout the shuffle about 1,000 times, I think. And so basically how to solve it is just kind of moving it back in that direction. At least that's one way to do it. There's probably a more optimal way, but there's no wrong. There is that just kind of shows there's a possible way. Is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, the scaling was also an issue that we actually had to deal with as well. In the beginning, we were actually having a lot of issues with scaling that, so we actually eventually got it to work. Puzzle function, so I just kind of went over that, and yeah, but so on and so forth. Images can be standard size. So what we did here was we made the image background size stretch, so we could use the same image instead of having to find multiple images throughout the project. So we just stretched the image out. And yeah, that's kind of like some of the test cases that we had for our project here. So here we have my setup for VS Code. It's just kind of how I do it. JavaScript on the left side. Then we have the HTML, CSS on the right side, kind of split together. You probably can't see it all, but yeah, that's the general idea of it. So I mean, we have a lot of global variables because that's just kind of how the way I could think of doing things. But yeah, I mean, I got it to work. We have functions for checking if the grid is solved, and the way we do that is like on the first render, it's going to be completed anyway, so we kind of like cache this the HTML of this element and then compare it to the current state of the grid every click to make sure that it's not solved, or to make sure that it's solved. And if it is, then you win. You've won the game, and it displays the win splash, etc., etc. And a couple other things, the how to handle the clicks. This is the shuffle swap. Finding the possible moves, clearing the old moves, because you want it to update every single click, and you don't want to have the old moves again. And yeah, just the shuffle, random number, changing the background, and clearing the board, etc., etc. And for the HTML here, it's just kind of the general layout. We have, we've imported some fonts from Google API. Here's our own styles as well. A couple of things added in here. We have the loss screen, which is hidden on the first run, and when you lose, it kind of displays itself. Same thing with the modal; it kind of toggles itself when you win. And yeah, there's all the CSS here on the bottom as well. I don't know if you can see it but let's try to move it around. It's a little bit, but we have a lot of different kinds of classes and stuff that we need to change. Like we have here the different backgrounds, and we can just change it depending on what you choose.